Thank you very much and good afternoon. And thank you for inviting me here today. And Alistair, Eve, and John, my critics, will be here later. I can assure you that we all have one key thing in common, that we're pushing for agriculture. Kind of a shadow. To Keith and the team at CFA, thank you for everything you've done and continue to do for farmers and the sector. And I also want to take a moment to congratulate, and I hope she's here, the new senator from Prince Edward Island, Mary Robinson. Are you here? Perhaps she's working. Well, she's always working, Mary, and certainly a voice for agriculture. Next year, Canadian Federation of Agriculture will celebrate 90 years of a national voice for Canadian producers. You're a vitally important partner to me and to our government. I'd have to say, as a farmer, I'm so delighted to be back as Minister of Agriculture and Agri-Food. See, I grew potatoes and milk cows in Prince Edward Island. Never I dreamt I would be the Minister of Agriculture and Agri-Food. But things happen. Great country. It's hard to believe that for the first time, so to be asked to sit around the cabinet table and represent farmers for the second time, I was there before, what I'm trying to say, and then I'm kind of a rerun, really. This is the second time around, and I'm certainly pleased to be back. It's been a busy few months. I've been back in the saddle, and as soon as I could, I got on the road to meet farmers across the country. And I ended up at Rob and Donna Stone's farm in Saskatchewan. I was right across the country. And they put me in a combine, a massive combine. And how wonderful that thing works compared to the combines I had back years ago. And there's only one thing they warned me: don't wear a white shirt to a farm. You think I'd know better, but I did. But anyhow, it's truly amazing what takes place on the farms and the innovation, and just hearing what I did here, it's so interesting. I've also been able to visit some of the trading partners in key markets around the world. You know, when I was first appointed Minister of Agriculture in 2015, we set a goal of $75 billion in agriculture and agri-food trade by 2025. Well, as you know, likely we have surpassed that substantially, and we are very close to $100 billion in trade export, and that's so important. Last month, I was in Washington to strengthen our trade ties with our largest agricultural trading partner. Secretary Vilsack and I had a good conversation on the ways to make our partnership even stronger. But I also noted that Canada's concern with the voluntary product of USA labeling. Never was big on labeling. Last week, I was in the Indo-Pacific, my second trip there in the past 5 months. And while in Manila, I opened the first ever trade office dedicated to agriculture and agri-food. It was a historic day for Canada and for our trading partners throughout the Indo-Pacific. The total trade in agriculture and food between Canada and the Indo-Pacific is now over $30 billion. In the Pacific alone, Canadian pork is making great strides. And there are so many opportunities for wheat, beef, canola meal, and many other products. I have no doubt that this new office will help create even more sales for our farmers. We have the best products in the world, and we want to be sure everybody knows that. I know you folks can deliver, and I continue to work as hard as I can to make Canada the supplier of choice for customers around the world. I can tell you they want a sustainable market. And I want to thank the CFA for their partnership with us as co-chair Sustainable Agricultural Strategy Advisory Committee. It's vitally important that we meet the rising demands for sustainably produced agriculture and agri-food. It's amazing in the Philippines, even sitting down with an importer, he brought up the environment and how important that is dealing with products that come into their country. And of course, with farmers, your leadership will guide us to our success. And we look forward to continuing to work with that strategy as it takes place. Vitally important. It's important to strike the right balance. That's why we're investing in programs and initiatives that help your environmental efforts, and also, which is vitally important, your bottom line. A few months ago, we launched a new living lab in Manitoba, and now there's at least one living lab in every province in Canada. Living labs is a model to the world because if our farmers are able to drive change, the solutions have to work on the farm. A strong and sustainable agricultural sector also includes supply management. And I will always defend our supply management system. We committed fully and fairly compensating dairy, poultry, and egg producers and processors which have been impacted by recent trade deals, and we've kept our promise. In September, I announced over $300 million to help dairy producers and processors find new markets for solid non-fats. And last month, I was at a dairy processing plant just east of here to announce a federal investment of $89 million to keep our dairy, egg, and poultry processors on the cutting edge. Companies are using these dollars to invest in automatives like robots for packaging and in technologies to increase their production, which is great news for farmers too. And once again, I want to thank you. The past few years have been incredibly challenging, and your leadership has been more important than ever. Farmers have been hit by every obstacle imaginable, from a pandemic to extreme weather events to global unrest and supply chain disruptions. You've delivered under tough circumstances, helping to keep our food supply and economy strong. I want to thank you for your dedication. As farmers, optimism is essential to the job. And I'm so optimistic about the future for Canadian agriculture. I see so much potential for Canadian agriculture locally and globally. You feed Canadians, you produce everything the world wants, so let's continue to work together. And I wish you a productive meeting and progressive season in 2024. Thank you so much.
It's live, all right. Yeah. So thanks very much for those remarks, Minister. We will have Q&A, so if people want to make their way to their microphone, do so now. I just ask that you identify yourself when you do come to the mic. I'm just wondering, Minister, you did actually make an announcement this morning. I didn't know if you wanted to talk a little bit about the $3.1 million for the National Index, Performance Index.
I'm not even aware of.
You're not even aware?
Somebody made the announcement before.
Yeah, it was an agri-assurance announcement.
Yeah, well, agri-assurance, yes.
Yeah, we've been working on building the index over the last 4 years, and thankfully the agri-assurance came through with funding. It's going to be housed in CAPI. Tyler McCann's going to be overseeing it, so it's great.
Well, all of this is so vitally important, and just like the presentation I walked in on here, and agriculture has changed so drastically, and it's so important that these changes are made, and for farmers to understand. I know that being a farmer myself, when you see the results of what happens with all these initiatives and programs that are put in place, it makes it that you're going to have to decide as a farmer that you're going to do it only because it benefits yourself in the long run. And if that does not happen, it will not happen. So no matter what programs, and we announced many, many programs, which I think are so vitally important.
Yeah, and the beauty is, a lot of little programs amount to a lot of spread out areas where we can make advancements, so we certainly appreciate those efforts. I can't believe nobody wants to come up and grill you.
I'm big on little announcements, because I come from Prince Edward Island. And you can make, quite simply, I think on Prince Edward Island, we can make, with a very few $1 million, we can make a bigger difference than in some larger areas too. But of course, in the agricultural sector, with the Sustainable Agricultural Strategy, you know what we're doing there, you're co-chair in that.
Yep.
And it's so vitally important that we can continue to work and get this strategy announced and see the progress.
But as someone who lives in a larger province, we'd be willing to try using some of that money to see what you can do with it if you want to give it to us. So we do have a question. You will need the interpretation for this one. So just identify yourself, Martin.
Martin Caron, président de l'UPA et membre du conseil de la Fédération canadienne de l'agriculture. Merci, M. MacAulay, pour les mots d'encouragement par rapport à tous les enjeux. So you okay for the translate?
No.
No? So,
You didn't
So the
invest enough money
channel-
in the
Thank you, go
OK.
ahead.
Ça. Donc, merci pour les mots d'encouragement, puis les mots, entre autres, par rapport à qu'est-ce qu'on fait de bien ici au niveau de l'agriculture. Mais je dois venir poser une question, vous poser une question, parce que les producteurs de chez nous, de ma région, puis je vois au niveau du reste du Canada, c'est pas évident présentement au niveau économique. Vous l'avez mentionné, l'inflation, la hausse des taux d'intérêt. Je suis sûr que vous avez vu qu'est-ce qui se passe en Europe, entre autres. C'est que moi, M. le ministre, je me demande quelle façon qu'on peut avoir face à tous nos défis, nos challenges qu'on a par rapport à l'agriculture, durable, et comment qu'on peut augmenter nos budgets au niveau de l'agriculture et au niveau des changements climatiques, comme pour le risk management, entre autres. Comment qu'on peut aller chercher? Moi, j'ai l'impression, des fois, on regarde le ministère de l'Agriculture qui a dit une chose, mais il y a d'autres ministères, comme le ministère de l'Environnement au Canada, qu'on devrait avoir plus de soutien. C'est que je vous demande, bien, comment qu'on peut faire pour augmenter nos budgets, que ce soit en agriculture ou que ce soit aussi avec d'autres ministères?
Well, thank you very much. And of course, nothing more I want you to do to increase your budget. And of course, we have a number of programs that will assist. And of course, the advance payment program, which I expected to get a question on, as you know, it was 100,000 and then 250, and then was up to 350. That helps. I used that when I was a farmer myself. There are other initiatives. I think when you look at, there's a lot of programs in agriculture, like rotational grazing in the beef industry. This type of thing just means that you burn less gas. Example, if you have, I was on a ranch in Alberta, and there was about 11 different crops growing in the one piece. And the lowest crop was turnip. They would have to not bale hay. They would feed off of that field rotationally for about 10 of the 12 months. That's just one of the examples. And we have different farms across the country with farmers and scientists working together. Example, you have a program of 30% less fertilizer. That's not easy when I heard it first. But of course, I wasted fertilizer when I was a farmer. Now, if we can do that, example, with science and research, like the nitrogen itself is capped in order to make sure the nitrogen is released as the plant needs it. This will mean you grow a bigger crop, take more nitrogen out of the soil, more nitrogen, a bigger crop will take more nitrogen out of the air, you'll help the environment, and produce a bigger crop. That's the kind of programs. There are many programs like that, and it's important that farmers see these programs and understand how vitally important they are. Of course, I know if I was a farmer, I'd have to see it to believe it, and it works. But it's going to take time. Thank you.
So thank you for the answer, but I need more budget for the agriculture. So
Budget
thank you
is
so
a
much.
problem. I've had a problem with the budget when I was farming too. I can certainly.
And you know that I support you, Mr. MacAulay, to push for more budget in agriculture. So thank you so much.
I'd support myself for more budget too.
Maybe you should ask them to give us a heads up on what's going to be in the budget.
If I give that update, I wouldn't be here long. Go ahead.
Bethany Dykstra from New Brunswick, so neighboring you.
Right across the water.
And I'd just like to piggyback off of that a little bit. We heard earlier today from the United States that they're actually contributing $19.5 billion over the next 5 years to help their farmers with environmental sustainability and getting onto these commitments that we all globally have committed to. So I think it's good that the government, or our government, is looking to help us, because I just want to share that there's no way we can do it alone. And that I believe this is not just an issue of farmers, but it's a global issue. So it's the people that need to help to contribute to make it happen as well. And that's why I feel the United States is comfortable in doing that. And of course, they have certainly a much bigger treasury than we do. However, I feel the need is for everyone to ante up and to help us with this.
I couldn't agree more. And of course, that's why if I just arrived back here about a few months ago, but the Sustainable Agricultural Strategy, is, Keith would tell you, that's why we want farmers involved. It's so important that these programs, and it's good to see, in fact, governments getting information from bottom up. We have to know just what you need. We won't be able to provide everything you need. I know in the end the farmer pays the buck, no matter what takes place. I know the environmental programs are sometimes difficult at first, but quite simply, if you have massive storms like we had in PEI, Fiona destroyed, and you had it, I guess, too. Blew down barns, killed cattle. You have, I never forget, a bale of hay out on the prairie, $300 a bale. I'm a farmer, and I know what that means. I mean, that just does not work. You can't exist. So what we have to do is create some stability with the climate, work on that, but also make sure that we work with farmers. You have increased your export by a large figure, and we want to make sure that continues. But if you don't continue pushing government and making us move, and a little shove to me does not hurt either. I'll do everything I can, but I need people to ask and indicate just simply what is needed. We can never provide everything you need, but I think with this sustainable agricultural strategy, through the years, we'll hopefully work to make sure farmers feel that they have a bigger input in fact, what's costing them. Because you're a very important part of the GDP in this country, and you bring in a lot of foreign money with the $100 billion export that is now taking place.
Thank you for that, and consider this the big push.
Ethan Wallace, Ontario Federation of Agriculture. During your answer to the first question, you mentioned the APP program and the $350,000 limit for the interest-free. It is currently back to $100,000. Can you or your government commit to putting that limit back to the $350,000 going forward?
Perhaps the government can, I can't, but I'm fully aware and putting every push I can on to make sure that something like that takes place. I'm certainly not in a position to indicate that advance payment program. I understand how important the advance payment program is. It's a long time since I grew potatoes, but I can tell you they were stored for about 6 months. And to have the advance payment interest-free, it meant a lot, and I very much appreciate it, and I'm on your side. Give the Minister of Finance a little push, wouldn't hurt. Go ahead.
No?
Be quick, Andy.
I'm always quick.
Might need a chair.
In the realm of carbon footprint reduction, are you considering a program similar to the U.S. which encourages partnerships throughout the value chain between agricultural sectors and perhaps even other countries to reduce the overall carbon footprint and reduce greenhouse gases?
You're talking about this country working with other countries.
Yes, and
Well-
inside of the idea that it's the whole value chain. Because what we've really heard is an awful lot is farmers you need to reduce, and we're looking at a value chain, but can that be connected all the way across to even other countries? And
I
there's
can't tell you that of course, we're in contact with other countries all the time, but my biggest, what I would consider, I have to be careful of, is to make sure that the farmer doesn't pay the buck. That's what you have to be careful of, because as you know, the price of groceries, everybody is, and they are very high, but you have to be careful what is said, because the producer is not the one that creates the price on groceries. And that's kind of the thing that I would fully watch. And in the environment, of course, we have an environment minister who is aggressive and will certainly push with other countries, I'm sure. But whatever other countries are doing, anything that we can learn to do, like I mentioned about the rotational grazing, all the farmers, I think, have to do is see that. I know if I saw that in raising beef, it would be just, well, it just saves money. And plus the fact when you go to foreign markets and they ask you, how did you produce the product? And they do ask those questions now. It's going to become a trade issue. It's
Thank you.
amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks very much, Minister, for always, as always, not only showing up but being candid. We appreciate it. And it's easy to come and ask for money, and we're going to continue to do that because it is easy.
And that's what we should do.
However, I think what goes hand in hand with that is getting the right regulatory framework in place, and that's where the conversations are important to make sure that it not only works in the government's agenda, but it's practical and implementable on the ground too. And so let's continue those conversations so we get there.
Oh, I agree. And what you're doing with all the programs is making sure that you're working with the government, and that's what is important. Everything would go the way you want it, and I suppose it won't go all the way I want it, but if you work together, you can make things happen no matter what. That's what I want to do. But make sure that I watch your back.
Yeah.
Take care.
Thank you. Thanks very much. Thanks, Minister.